head up our product and solutions team for the EMEA region. I've been in the industry for 20 years now, really focused on helping our customers best understand how Netskope actually fits into their cybersecurity strategy, and advising the region in terms of kind of cybersecurity strategy and how to best mitigate the threats that they face.
Okay. So, what are the newest trends that you're seeing in the industry right now? Is it APTs, or is it more targeted attacks, or
I think there's always the underlying risk of APTs, of nation states that are trying to attack other nations, and more specifically public infrastructure within those nations. The bigger threat I think that actually is facing organizations is one of the threat landscape now moving from a cloud perspective, especially over the last 2 years with the pandemic. Everyone has shifted to working from home,
right,
or into a hybrid work model as things have settled down. That means people are in different places, people are using different devices. Organizations generally are now rethinking how and where they store their data. We've got Amazon, we've got Microsoft, we've got Google, all putting cloud resource into the area. And what that has meant is that the threat actors can use all of that infrastructure to now target individual organizations. And the biggest threat is extortion from ransomware now in the region.
Okay.
The threat actors are using that cloud resource to host their malware, host their lures, and people are beginning to trust it. People are trusting now a link that points to Microsoft OneDrive, but actually that link is now malicious. And that is probably the biggest threat that's facing an organization, because if they lock that organization's data, then that organization can, in effect, not function. And that's probably the biggest issue as more and more companies start to adopt public cloud. Their users are working from anywhere. So how do we make sure that we keep everyone secure?
Okay. So, in terms of ransomware, right, and in the cloud, I think one of the things that we personally noticed is that there are several S3 buckets that are already attacked, and the companies have zero to no harm.
Yeah.
Like you can just look up the company. So, is there still a lack of awareness? Is there still so much less initiative?
I think awareness is a big part of it, and because people are fairly new to using cloud services, there's that inherent trust. Oh, well, it must be secure because it's Microsoft or it's Amazon, or I'm connecting to a resource that is managed by those third parties, and that's the issue that we've seen over the last few years, is that the threat actors, instead of now hosting all of their lures on infrastructure that's compromised or is their own, are now using all of this public cloud and SaaS infrastructure, and people can no longer trust inherently any file or any service that is provided on any of those platforms. So yes, there's a user education aspect of this, but there's also the need to now deeply inspect traffic that is going to or from these platforms, even if it's a platform that you as an organization have adopted.
Okay, last question, and then this is a new buzzword that I probably started hearing this year. It's called quantum ransomware. What exactly is it? Does it exist, or is it just a myth? Or people are just using two big words and then clubbing it together and throwing it out?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of new buzzwords out there, and ransomware is interesting because ransomware has evolved over time. It started off with an individual machine, and it would be a few $100 extortion for that. They then moved, and they were able to then move laterally and start to now compromise multiple machines in an organization. Then maybe into some of their core infrastructure and applications that they ran themselves. I think the big innovation now is that the ransomware threat actors, the cyber criminals, have now gone beyond that, and they're now looking at actually gaining access to and locking out applications in public cloud, applications that you're storing everywhere. And that's the big change, is that now it's not just about locking access to machines that people are using and extorting access back into that, but it's all of the infrastructure you use, no matter where it's hosted. And that's the biggest risk now, because suddenly your whole organization could stop functioning if they're successful.
Okay, so to add to that, now that the ransomware threat has evolved so much, Is there a broker? No, is there a way to mitigate and protect your organizations? You can be like 97% sure that you guys are safe.
Yeah, and there's no silver bullet. There's no easy button here, but it's got to be a combination of technology and user awareness. People in an organization can play a big part in keeping their organization safe by training them to understand what to look out for. Just because you get a link to a file that's purportedly come from a business partner, don't inherently trust that, because anyone can pretend to be that business partner. Anyone can throw up a OneDrive store or store a malicious file in an S3 Amazon bucket. Make sure your users are educated on those threats, and then on the other side, and this is something that is very dear to our heart as a web and cloud security provider, is have technology that can deeply look at every transaction to those. Don't just trust access to Microsoft, Amazon, etc. You've got to look at every transaction. Why allow download of files from third-party solutions? Simply blocking access to download third-party is going to help reduce that risk. Running something like browser isolation, allowing people access to third-party infrastructure, but don't allow download to your local browser. Again, that greatly reduces that risk. And then, of course, you can go a step further and actually start deeply inspecting that. That means you need to actually understand how each of those applications communicates. So think of it as like a next generation web proxy. Gone are the days where it was an allow or deny. You've got to allow OneDrive.microsoft.com, but now you can look at the tenant. Like, is it your version? Is it a business partner's version, or is it just a third-party version? Or somebody you don't trust, and have different rules accordingly. And then finally do that deep inspection. When somebody hits download, hold the file, inspect it before you download. All of that combined will solve 99% of those issues. Then you've just got to look out for those really advanced threats that are specifically targeting individuals for a specific reason, and maybe trying to use sophisticated techniques to bypass a lot of that core protection.
Thank you so much for the information. It was really amazing.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's been a pleasure.